Thank you once again for subscribing and liking and commenting on our YouTube page videos and all that good stuff. I should probably pop in there and respond once in a while, but between YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and email and it's a bit much. But I digress. We are midway through the regular fantasy season, 14 weeks, week 7 wrapping up. It is going very quickly. The waiver wire has been good, but per usual, lately at least, not a lot of stick to itiveness, if you will, to a lot of these pickups. But we are in many ways renting players for a couple of weeks. We are looking to catch players who are going to have a good third season in the regular season. As I always say, there are seasons within the season. So every week I go in there at the fantasypoints.com waiver wire report and I pop in my top 15 additions. And I do a little video here every week, give you a little sample of that. If you want to subscribe to the website, you can save 25% using the promo code Gurific25. And of course, as I mention every week, some pickups are for the here and now. I need help like right now. Some are more for the long term and all that. So let's get to it. And I'll talk about short term, long term expectations for these guys. Well, got to start with Josh Downs of the Indianapolis Colts, a player I was very high on this summer. I did set up an interview with him at the combine, one of the best interviews I've ever done. Honestly, one of the nicest kids, really smart, very mature, very grounded young man. I just went back and I looked to see where we ranked him and all that. Guy was getting no love. Great example of why the waiver wire is so important. So many guys go into a season these days where you just really don't know if they're draft worthy or not. That was the case with Josh Downs. His ADP was 210 overall, didn't even make the top 200 ADP wise. He did make it onto our top 200 cheat sheet though at 178. So that's a pretty good endorsement. That's over 30 spots over his ADP. Wide receiver 88, and we had him at 76. So, I mean, that said, did I think he would have a top 30 showing through week 7? Absolutely not. This is pretty darn ridiculous. As of right now, the guy is wide receiver 13 on the season, wide receiver 18 in points per game, which really does beg the question, are we going to hit some regression here? Things going to level off? I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be the case. You look at the receiving core here, it's very, very thin here. Alec Pierce was a player that I was kind of into as well at his ADP, and it's not really happening for him. Of course, that analysis was him being teamed with the strong arm Anthony Richardson, which that ship has probably sailed, and the small sample size. And look, they were just getting started. It was not great with Anthony Richardson, but you don't expect an inexperienced rookie quarterback to step onto an NFL field in week 1 or in September and click with his deep threat. So Josh Downs, though, is a little bit of a deep threat, believe it or not, for a slot receiver. You know, I talk with him at the combine about playing inside. He's a kid who put his body on the line a lot. At North Carolina, I'm like, dude, you got to slow down with that a little bit in the NFL. And he was like, yeah, I hear you. But he has had no problems, as far as I can tell, with the physicality of the NFL, with the speed of the NFL. I mean, the guy, again, is absolutely kicking tail and doing really, really well with Gardner Minshew. I'm sorry, I'm going to correct something real quick. That point was, I think it was from the last 5 weeks. I thought he looked good week 1. He caught, I believe, 3 passes very early in week 1, and then he was pretty much shut down after that. He was pretty quiet. But so the last 5 weeks, he is wide receiver 18 in points per game and wide receiver 13. Still only owned in 36% of Yahoo leagues. But I do think he is a little bit of a high volume guy here, and he's definitely clicking with Gardner Minshew. You know, Michael Pittman, another one of my long-term, favorites from when they came out. Another great guy. He's fine, but Isaiah McKenzie, as I thought, has not done much. That's it. They have Juwan, don't call me Oprah Winfrey, uh, who's a former Packer who has done very, very little in this league. They don't throw this year much to the tight ends. They've got an ugly committee there. Kylan Granson missed week 6. You know it's bad when we're missing Kylan Granson, but Drew Ogletree, Mo Alley Cox. I mean, there's not much going on here right now. We'll see about Jelani Woods and if he can get back into the mix here. But I do like Will Mallory, but he's a long-term play. So long story short, I think this absolutely could continue for Josh Downs, who is my number one priority pickup off that waiver wire. Let's move down to Dalton Kincaid. I was not signing off on Dalton Kincaid as a tight end 1 this summer. Wasn't about the player at all. It was obviously about that high cost and the dual tight end situation there with Dawson Knox. And through 6 games, that analysis was on point. This is what we were kind of dealing with and looking at, canceling each other out, basically. Well, Dawson Knox has been dropping a lot of balls lately, playing with this sore wrist. Well, going to be down for surgery. Recording this video on Monday night. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but I do know this after a very, very strong showing in week number 7, Dalton Kincaid should be viewed as a tight end 1. They are looking for a spark, and Gabe Davis has given it to him for the most part, but he is still a little inconsistent. He caught all 8 of his targets, did Kincaid in week 6, 19.5% target share. Dawson Knox only had 3 targets, 63% snap share. He had a 10-yard catch. He had some drops, as I mentioned there. Turns out that wrist was the problem. So Dalton Kincaid looking pretty darn good here. Let's move on to, here's a quarterback for you, and things do change very quickly in the National Football League. It was just about a month ago where I was kind of talking up Josh Dobbs. He was playing well, professional quarterback. The offense was working. We have leveled off completely, which happens all the time. We talk about the sample size increasing, and coinciding with Josh Dobbs's slide, if you will, is momentum for Kyler Murray, who is only owned in about 40% of Yahoo leagues. It looks like Kyler Murray could get back to the field as soon as week number 10. Overall, this offense has been pretty darn good. Hollywood Brown has been outstanding, getting open a lot. They're calling up good plays for him. Michael Wilson has kind of been a little up and down, but he has shown well overall, as has this year, I think, Trey McBride, who is coming on a little bit. You have Zach Ertz as well. Not much in the backfield, but they will get James Conner back. So I think Kyler Murray, when you really look at it, the poor play this year, the lack of scoring is really bad. I dealt with that last week in my video. Scoring down, by the way, in 2022, guess what? It's worse in 2023. And I keep equating this to being like a stockbroker during the Great Depression. I am trying to come up with a term for this little quagmire, the lack of scoring, the great fantasy downturn, the great fantasy dip, the great fantasy downslide. I don't know. I'm still workshopping it, but we are in the midst of kind of an ugly era right now. We are reverting here, the great fantasy reversion. We're reverting to, like, I don't know, there was like a little dead period in the early 2000s when scoring wasn't all that great. Maybe we're reverting to that like 20 years earlier. But Kyler Murray, with all that said, could easily be a top 10 quarterback when he returns. Obviously, he'll run, and we do have those weapons. So I am fully signing off on this one at this point. Pick him up for depth. And if you are struggling with a guy, obviously, like a Deshaun Watson, maybe you've got Kirky Cousins. I know he did well in week 7, shockingly. But if you have an issue, did you draft Daniel Jones? I mean, plenty of other issues out there. Kyler Murray, for sure, should be picked up. A couple of other wide receivers here to get to. Well, how about my guy, Kendrick Bourne? I mean, I've been giving this guy love and I keep saying all he needs is decent quarterback play and a matchup against a non-elite corner. And we have gotten that the last 2 weeks, 16 grabs for 152 and a touchdown. Schedule looks really good. I can even put Mac Jones, believe it or not, on this list. We don't want to be fooled by one good game, but that was a very, very good game by one McCorkle Jones in week number 7, completing over 80% of his passes. Maybe Bill Belichick and Bill O'Brien and the Patriots might just figure this out a little bit, as Bill Belichick, of course, everyone talking about him getting canned. Meantime, dude's out there signing contract extensions and beating, one of the best teams in the NFL in the Buffalo Bills. So maybe they've turned a corner and they'll have a professional offense. And if so, Kendrick Bourne is the number one receiver when you really look at it. Everybody else here basically stinks. I like Hunter Henry. Mike Gesicki's okay, but they need a one inside-outside guy. That is Kendrick Bourne. Tank Dell should be back this week, owned in just half of Yahoo leagues. Brandon Cooks, I have been pumping up the Cowboys even before their big week 6 game. I had Dak Prescott as a guy to trade for. I like that schedule. So I think they need a spark. I think they need to be more of a pass-happy team here because it's not really happening with Tony Pollard running the rock. And Brandon Cooks showed major signs of life in his last game there and had that 14-yard run. He scored. It was a really, really good day for him. So kind of like him. Running back-wise, we are at the mercy of injuries and the whims, apparently, of various coaches like Sean McVay, who did not surprisingly opt to basically feature Darrell Henderson. We are 3 more games for Kyron Williams on IR. So clearly Darrell Henderson is the best choice. I'm sitting there apologizing in the waiver wire article last week about Amari DeMarcado after the Damian Williams usage the week before and Keontae Ingram looking good. Well, what happened? Those guys were evaporated. I don't know if it's a function of featuring the guy who has the best week of practice or not, but perhaps the initial reaction there was that Amari DeMarcado would be the guy to get. Hurry up back, good receiver, should be in the mix on early down. So that's a guy who's not necessarily game script dependent like a Keontae Ingram could be. Here's a name. Hopefully we helped you out a week or two ago talking up Deontay Foreman a little bit. Well, that ship has sailed. He's owned in 65% of Yahoo leagues, but Roshan Johnson, let's not forget, was playing over Deontay Foreman. He has a better 3-down skill set. He's not the dominant kind of bell cow, perhaps, as Roshan is, like a beast mode junior, if you will. But he's a big man and he's a powerful guy, and he's shown well too. And he's a better receiver than Deontay Foreman, who did catch a couple of balls this week. Some other names I'll throw out there real quick. Marvin Mims in Denver. I still think we're going to get a trade of either Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton by that trade deadline in Halloween. And a couple of more young guys. Trey McBride for the stretch run, just in case they decide to really transition away from Zach Ertz and or if he gets hurt. And then I can't do a video without mentioning my guy, Tajay Spears, only owned in 42% of Yahoo leagues. Come on, people. This guy should be owned in every damn league as at worst, like an RB4. I think he's got some standalone value right now. And of course, if Derrick Henry's out of the mix and or they transition away from Henry if they really start losing a lot of games. And we'll see about Ryan Tannehill, by the way, in week 8 and beyond with his high ankle sprain. They could kind of turn the page on Derrick Henry. That'll wrap up this week's video. If you're subscribing to fantasypoints.com, well, thank you for that. First and foremost, check the website. We do update this waiver wire report periodically. Keep liking, subscribing, commenting, and we'll catch you next time here on fantasypoints.com.